that we are not here talking about economics. We are not talking about economic activities. We are talking about the philosophy or the theory behind those economic activities. We are not talking about the capitalist system, but about the theory behind that system. The best economic system is a market economy in which individuals and groups of individuals have complete freedom in engaging in economic activity.
Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Our speaker today is Dr. Jaafar Idris. Dr. Jaafar Idris has authored many articles and research papers. He has visited many countries around the world where he has lectured in Arabic and in English. He was born on the 15th of June 1931 in Port Sudan, Sudan. He grew up in the city of Port Sudan, where he completed his elementary and secondary school. In addition to the modern school system, he studied Quran in traditional Quranic schools. He also studied fiqh, hadith, and Arabic language under traditional teachers in the city, and studied Aqidah with Ansar al-Sunnah group. After that, he joined the University of Khartoum, where he completed his education and traveled to London for postgraduate studies. He obtained his PhD in philosophy from the University of Khartoum and the University of London in 1970. His PhD thesis topic was the concept of the causality in Islam. Dr. Jaafar Idris is a professor of Islamic studies in both the USA and Saudi Arabia. He has taught graduate courses of Aqidah, theology, and contemporary ideologies. He has published many articles, papers, and pamphlets in Arabic and English, and has also contributed many articles in different magazines, as well as presenting papers at many Islamic conferences. So what promises to be a very interesting and enlightening talk, we welcome to the stage Dr. Jaafar Idris.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. ثم أما بعد. Our talk is the failure of the capitalist philosophy. The first question that might come to some people's mind is, why should we as Muslims be interested in the failure of the capitalist philosophy? It is certainly not because we just want to find fault with people who differ with us. We as Muslims are advised to accept and acknowledge truth wherever we find it. So what is the reason? The reason is that this philosophy has had a very harmful effect on all people all over the world, Muslims not accepted. And people are now having people in the West, second mind about this philosophy and are criticizing it. So I think that it is also our duty to take part in this criticism and not criticize it, but also show the Islamic alternative to it. I will concentrate on the first part of criticism and only say a few words about the alternative. Now, what is this philosophy? It is very simple and easy to understand. Before that, I would like to say, I'd like to emphasize the fact that we are not here talking about economics. We are not talking about economic activities. We are talking about the philosophy or the theory behind those economic activities. We are not talking about the capitalist system, but about the theory behind that system. Now, what is that theory? What is that philosophy? As I said, it is very simple to understand. It says that the best economic system is a market economy in which individuals and groups of individuals have complete freedom in engaging in economic activities. This is the essence of this theory. Now, why should this be good? They say that in spite of the fact that people will be driven by their own self-interest, and some would say even by greed, but the ultimate result would be in the interest of all. How does this happen? Adam Smith said that this is because there is something like an invisible hand which will coordinate those contradicting self-interest, coordinate them, and channel them to serve the common good, the interest of society as a whole. This is the claim of this philosophy. The ideal of this philosophy is expressed in a famous French expression, laissez-faire, which has been translated to mean leave him alone, or let him do what he wants. Do not interfere in his activities. This philosophy is commonly attributed in the West to the Scottish philosopher and economist Adam Smith, though it is said that he never used that French phrase. Now, we come to our second important question. What is wrong with this philosophy? This is what we will be talking about, Mr. Gato. What is wrong with this philosophy? The short answer is that it has never been a good guiding principle for economic activity. It has never been. People advocate it, talk about it, but in practical life, they have never been really guided by that philosophy which says that individuals should be given absolute or great freedom to engage in economic activities. Now, again, what is wrong with it? First, this philosophy does not satisfy the basic and first condition of a good theory. A good theory is one which sets an ideal, and the more reality approaches that ideal, the better things will be. For example, if someone said the best society is a society in which no crime is committed. Now, the more any society approaches that ideal, the less crimes there are, the better society will be. That is a good theory. But the strange thing about the theory or the philosophy of the capitalist philosophy is that the more reality approaches its ideal, the worse things will be. And if it happens, never happened, the ideal was realized, that would have been disastrous for any society that did that. In fact, the capitalist system has been surviving not because people were trying to approach its ideal. It has been surviving because governments have always been taking measures that to avoid its harmful effects, measures that are in fact in conflict with the capitalist philosophy. See, for example, the measures that were taken to lessen the harmful effects of the recent economic crisis. In the United States, the government saved some banks and companies by pouring taxpayers' money into those banks and companies. And many people in the United States complained, why do we save a bank or a company with our money? No. According to the ideal, this should not happen. You should leave companies to meet their own fate, whether if they fail or go bankrupt, so then that is what they deserve. So that is the first point against capitalist philosophy.
I'm your brother in Islam, Hussein Yi from Malaysia, and you are watching Peace TV, the solution for humanity.
1:30 a.m. India on Peace TV.
Quran is the divine word of Allah. It is the final revelation to humanity. It is a means of healing, both spiritually and physically. Whosoever abides by it is guided. To ponder and reflect on its beautiful verses.
الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم.
Join me on Tafsir al-Quran al-Kareem.
Appreciate the significance of tafsir to realize the essence of the Quran in Tafsir of Quran. Next on Peace TV.
The second is that, and this is very strange also, that the ideal set by this philosophy was never taken seriously by any of its advocates. They advocated, but it was never taken seriously by any of them. It is said that even Adam Smith, the one who established this philosophy, used to believe in some kind of government intervention. Keynes, the great English economist, is reported to have written an article 80 years ago entitled The End of Laissez-faire. Friedman, the American champion of capitalism in modern times, is said not to have been opposed to all kinds of government intervention. And in our own days, George Gordon Brown, the British Prime Minister, said in a public lecture, and I quote, "I mean," he said, "laissez-faire has had its day. People on the center-left and the progressive agenda should be confident enough to say that the old idea that markets were by definition efficient and could work things out themselves, that idea is gone." Then he goes on to say, that doesn't mean to say that what governments do is always right. What it means is that both government and markets have got to be underpinned by values. He doesn't tell us, at least in that public lecture, to what values he is referring. Now, my third point against the capitalist philosophy is that experience has shown that the free working of the market, instead of realizing what that theory advocated, that it will be, the end result will be in the interest of the common good, it will be in the interest of society. In fact, the opposite happened. This freedom led to the division of people into very, very rich people, and on the one hand, and very poor people on the other hand. And they say that the gap between them is widening. And I give some examples that I got from what some American economists said. It is said, for example, that in the United States, the 13,000 richest families now have almost as much income as the 20 million poorest. 13,000 richest have as much as the 20 million poorest. They also say that those 13,000 families have incomes 300 times that of average families. It is also said that the wealthiest 10% of Americans now have a larger share of total income that they ever had in records going back nearly a century. According to one economist who made a recent study of this gap between the rich and the poor, he said that 10% of earners in America now receive 50% of all the income earned in the United States. 10% receive nearly 50% of all the income earned in the United States. They say that the contrast between the poor and the rich is even starker for the super rich. The top 0.1% of earners in the US are now taking home 6% of all the income. The top 0.1% earn 6% of all the income. Some economists in the United States say that it is hard to ignore the correlation between rising income inequality and the onset of economic crisis. And they give as an example what happened in 1928 and 1929, just before the start of the Great Depression. They say that the inequalities reached high, was very great, and then as a result of that, there was the crisis of called the Great Depression. They also say that it is not only ethically unacceptable, but it is endangering social stability. I mean, this gap between the rich and the poor, and hence economic activity itself. The inequality is not only ethically unacceptable because people, if the country is very rich people, there should be no very poor people who cannot have proper education, who cannot have health care, and so on. This is ethically unacceptable, but it is also endangering social stability. 4, now we are enumerating the points against capitalist philosophy. 4, if the ideal set by the capitalist philosophy was followed, the result would have been disastrous. Why? There would have been, for example, no laws governing the economic activity, because the laws are, by definition, restraints on economic activities of people. They say, you can't do this, you cannot do that, you cannot build factory on this site, you cannot buy and sell this kind of commodity. These are restrictions. And all these restrictions and restraints are not compatible with the capitalist philosophy. Everyone would have been given the freedom to engage in buying and selling and in whatever they chose, to build their factories, shops, other economic facilities wherever they wanted. No taxes would have been levied, and so on, if people really followed the ideal of the capitalist philosophy. 5, also, we can see that the common good cannot be served without the help of states. Think of education, of health care, of global warming. All this, governments have to interfere to ensure that poor people or people have chance for education, have chance for health care, and they must interfere to stop this global warming. All this goes to show that there must be restraints on people's economic activities. The important question now is, what kind of restrictions or restraints? Now, there is no answer in the capitalist philosophy to this question. And therefore, the intervention has been arbitrary. But because this philosophy is an individualist philosophy, the intervention never went as far as helping the poor people. The result is that you find homeless citizens and citizens who sleep in ditches, even in winter, in some of the richest countries in the world. 6, the problem with capitalist philosophy is not in its advocacy of market economy, as the socialists used to say, but in its view of that economy. Market economy, as you know, is an economy where people can buy and sell and own and save and work and so on. This is the market economy. And this is very natural economy. People have always throughout history been doing this. And as we will see, this is also the Islamic economy. So the problem of capitalism is not in the fact that it is a market economy, but in its view of that market economy.